So we went to the zoo, and Thomas got attacked by an animal. To hear which animal and to hear live recordings from our very first cryptid expedition, stay tuned to this episode of the Wild World podcast.
Welcome to the Wild World podcast. I'm your host, Thomas from the YouTube channel, and joining me, as always, is the other host, Mika.
Yes, let's see, for the first time in a long time we're recording this together. We're in the same place.
Yep.
And so we've done a lot of trips, like looking for wildlife and just where we are. Anyway, Happy New Year, everyone. This is our first podcast from 2025, so let's get started with our wildlife radar. The first thing I wanted to talk about was what?
Nothing. The first thing on our wildlife radar is 2 movies.
Right. So we went to see, I went to see separately Gladiator 2. And if you've seen Gladiator 2, spoiler alert, you know that they flood the Colosseum and there are sharks in the water. I believe that is historically inaccurate. They didn't have sharks in the water, but I thought it was sort of cool that there were sharks. What do you think, Thomas?
I mean, I get why they did it, but I feel like if they were going to do something like that, they should have used crocodiles instead, because I believe there were crocodiles in the Colosseum, and I feel like crocodiles would be more dangerous as well.
Oh, have you considered talking to Ridley Scott about this?
Yeah, I sent him many emails. I've tried phoning him.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. And then we were also able to see Nosferatu together. There are also some animals in that. There are wolves or dogs. We can't decide. And there's also rats, a bunch of rats. So I thought that the wolf/dog scenes were really interesting. They were like chasing a character through the woods. It was really cool. All right. So if you like seeing animals in film, you might want to check out Gladiator 2 or Nosferatu. Or not. They're like not very much screen time, so anyway, you were probably wanting to know what happened at the zoo where Thomas really was, well, according to him, attacked by an animal.
No, not just according to him. You also saw it.
I,
You saw the second attack.
I saw it, but it didn't seem like that big of a deal. Let me tell you what happened.
Wait.
Okay.
Should we tease him a little bit and go on something else and then talk about it?
Sure. We could just talk about what else we saw at the zoo.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. So it was very, very cold. It was like almost barely anyone was there. It was almost freezing, and we were all bundled up. And there was barely anywhere to go in that was warm. The only warm place was to watch the gorillas. So we stayed in and watched the gorillas for a really long time, and they were really interesting. There were these baby gorillas that were playing, or teenagers, I guess. And there was a silverback who was waiting for food. It was cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Is there any notable animals that we saw? I mean,
Well, because it was so cold, I thought this is going to be great weather for cats that you don't normally see moving around. And I was right, because we saw the tiger and we saw...
was it 2 lions?
Well, first, when it was really, really cold in the morning, we saw the tiger and we were able to see the snow leopard, but they weren't moving around very much. And we saw...
We didn't see the lions.
We didn't see the lions. And we did see the red pandas having a great time climbing a tree. But then we went and did a second pass to see if those animals were moving. And when it was still cold, but in the middle of the day, the lions had come out and they were moving around a lot. The tiger was moving more than I've pretty much ever seen a tiger move at a zoo. And the snow leopard, for the first time in my life, I saw a snow leopard move.
I think it's the first time I've ever seen a snow leopard.
Yeah, it was really fun. Because usually when I go to a zoo and there's a snow leopard, I don't see it. So this was the first time. Like, usually it's hiding somewhere because it's too hot outside. So the snow leopard seemed pretty happy.
Yeah.
And the wolves, there were wolves there at the zoo, and they seemed happy too. They were all like, they had some sort of mission. There was this one wolf that no one liked, and he was just watching, and he was slinking away. But the other wolves, they were patrolling their sort of rocky territory.
I guess they're the main animals we saw.
The penguins were pretty happy too. It was a nice weather for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Should I tell them what you got attacked by now?
Yeah.
Please, before you hear this part, if you're on YouTube, just leave a comment and guess what animal was Thomas attacked by at the zoo. Yeah, just think about it for a second. Would you like to reveal your attacker?
Okay, so this is gonna sound a little bit like a joke. But this really happened. I guess we were by which enclosure was it? Was it the tiger?
Right?
The tiger enclosure, one of my greatest fears. But I shouldn't have been focused on that at all, because there was this pesky territorial robin
Yeah.
hanging around. I thought there was something off about it from the beginning, because it was getting really close to us.
Well, I was singing to him because I was like, oh, this robin seems nice and curious, so I was singing to him. And then he got closer and closer after that.
Yeah, and then at some point I thought, like, it flew into me, but I was like, oh, that's probably just a gust of wind or something, because it's sort of a cold day, or something like that. I didn't pay much attention to it. But then the second time I was looking at it, and it went straight into me, right into my pants, right where my pocket is.
He started freaking out.
And then it started following me around as well.
Yeah. So I just kept singing to the robin the whole time. But for him, it was pretty intense, scary experience. I was having a good time.
It just wanted me to go. It was like, get out of here.
Yeah. So anyway, Thomas's new fear is robins.
Well, I don't know.
He's very afraid of robins, I would say.
I don't know if I'd say that. I've had bad experiences with birds. They're always trying to attack me for some reason.
Right, and I was perfectly fine. It was a very safe situation. So, moving on, we also did our very, very first expedition for this channel, because some people have been asking us to go out and look for animals and or cryptids, which we did. We went on a little trip to look for...
Dire wolves.
Whoa. So stay tuned to hear about if we found any dire wolves, all right? Should we move on to wildlife news? Okay. So I've got a little headline for us. Could monkeys really type all of Shakespeare? Not in this universe, a new study concludes. What do you think about that? I know you have a few questions.
Well, they're leaving out the part that it's the infinity part, which is like the whole point is to try and explain infinity, right?
Right. But the whole point of this basically conclusion or this study is that infinity is sort of meaningless when you're talking about like real world applications. So the real world application of this problem is AI, because you're talking about something with like non-human intelligence making something coherent and copying or plagiarizing like an existing work. So it is relevant to have constraints because it's a real world situation. So when you do put all the monkeys in a room, it's basically impossible to have them recreate the works of Shakespeare as the original saying goes. According to this study, if they were to type bananas, that would be possible. Bananas is pretty short. If you have a 1,800 page or word book, that's a chance, a 1 in 10 to the
Power 15,000.
Yeah, 10 to the power 15,000 chance. So that's very low chance that a 1,800 word book would be written. And the works of Shakespeare are 464 times longer than that. They're saying it is impossible in our universe with our universal constraints to create Shakespeare with a bunch of monkeys. So here are the things to consider. Do you have any comments right now?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, the things to consider. 1, the universe could end. That is a non-trivial consideration. Even if you have infinity, like, that's not possible. It's constrained by our universe, okay? You are also limited by the number of monkeys that exist because you, we're,
Sorry, I don't know why that's funny.
you need the monkeys to exist and be typing in order for you to say that this is possible. There aren't infinite numbers of monkeys, okay? And also, the monkeys have to be typing all the time. They can't take breaks, and they can't be interested in other things. They have to be interested only in typing. And they always have to be typing different things than they were typing before. Um, it would be cumulative typing and cumulative chance rather than just the chance resets every time, which is more likely because monkeys are going to have preferences for certain letters maybe, or like there the chance makes you, it would require them to always be creating something new basically. um so this is a quote from the article. The main point made was just how constrained our universe's resources are. Mathematicians can enjoy the luxury of infinity as a concept, but if we are to draw meaning from infinite limit results, we need to know if they have any relevance in our finite universe. So again, this goes back to AI. This is relevant now. You need to have editing and guidance as well to produce the right results. Like, that is the only way that there's a chance that monkeys could write Shakespeare, because otherwise you're going to invariably create AI slop. Like, if you think about it, you can't just ask ChatGPT to write infinite amounts of things. It'll write nothingness. Like, it'll just write random stuff. You have to have a very good prompt. And so if you're not prompting the monkeys, they're not going to create Shakespeare, basically. And if you're not editing them, it's not going to be right. Thoughts?
Yeah, fair enough. I was gonna say if you were training them slightly, maybe you could get that number down, but I guess you already accounted for that. So this was to say that like AI has there's a hard limit to what AI can do, kind of.
It's saying that the flippant attitude of any work of art, like any creative thing, can be produced with just some random monkeys typing away for infinite amount of time. That isn't a sort of, there's no point in saying that because there are constraints to creating things, and there is more structure put into creating a work of art than just random typing.
Hmm, fair enough.
Yes, so think about that. And then, Thomas, what news do you have?
So my news is about a new large spider, individual, not species. Okay, so this was recently discovered in Australia. Someone captured a Sydney funnel web spider, which, according to Guinness anyway, is supposed to be the most venomous spider in the world, although that might be debatable, but it's pretty venomous. Found in Newcastle, a little north of Sydney, and then it was dropped off at a reptile park, the Australian reptile park, where they measured it. And so usually these spiders are about 1 to 5 centimeters, foot to foot, as they say. So I presume that's like their leg span. So previously they had one called Hercules that was 7.9 centimeters. Then they had Colossus, which was 7.8 centimeters. And then they have a new one now. This one they named Thor, or Hemsworth, for obvious reasons. Do you want to guess how big it was?
I'll say it's over 8 centimeters.
Correct. In fact, it is over 9 centimeters. Whoops. 9.2 centimeters. It was so big that they thought it was a female at first, because usually the females are bigger, but it turns out it was actually a male. And this is pretty good because now in the reptile park, they can milk the spider to create anti-venom.
Why does the spider live at a reptile park?
That's a good question. It's probably because there's no spider parks.
Right. You were just suggested today to create your own spider park, so.
Yeah, and you told me to make it a wing of the reptile park, of our reptile park, right?
Oh, right. So I guess it makes sense. I'm sorry.
No, sorry, that's usually how it goes.
Spiders are my favorite reptile.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, so apparently it takes about 150 to 200 milkings just to create one vial of antivenom. And since it was created, or I guess invented in 1981, no one has died from a bite from the spider. According to the article on The Guardian, it says it saves up to 300 people a year, which seems like a lot. And then I was trying to find other numbers. Apparently, according to the Australian Museum, it states it only bites about 30 people a year.
So these must be preliminary, like just in case. Let's inject you with this anti-venom. 300 people a year getting injected with it.
Yeah, it's strange because a lot of the time as well, when you get bitten, you don't necessarily need to get antivenom. Like you should go to the doctor or whatever. But a lot of the time when people are bitten, like the spider, I guess, can do dry bites as well. And there's only been 13 to 14 deaths ever recorded. So I don't know, 300 seems a bit high, but at least it's saving some people every year, I guess.
Well, okay. So the antivenom is saving 300 people a year, but this particular spider bites 30 people a year. Is it possible the antivenom is used to save other, like, victims of another type of bite?
That might be possible, but I am not sure about that because I'm pretty sure you need to get like the right species to create the right antivenom. Because this particular antivenom you can't use the female, only the male. So I don't know.
Sounds fishy. Someone needs to have the Guardian explain this.
Well, it says up to 300 people a year, so I don't know. Maybe they're just leaving in some leeway there. But I have heard like in this article they interviewed the spider handler at this reptile park.
I thought you were gonna say they interviewed the spider.
He interviewed the spider and asked him why he was biting so many people. He said he only bites up to 300 a year, but I think there's sort of a shortage of these spiders, or not necessarily a shortage, but in terms of creating antivenom, they're always looking for more. I guess considering they need to be milked so many times. So the spider handler was like, if done right, they can be caught correctly, and I guess there's like an appeal to catch more of them if you see them.
So are you suggesting to our listeners who live in Australia that they should go out and try to catch this spider?
I think they should just listen to the advice of experts and not me, because I don't want anyone getting bitten.
Well, Emma, her name is Emma Tenney, right?
Yeah.
Maybe she'll have good advice for you on how to catch these spiders.
Yeah. If you saw one, would you try and catch it?
Yes. Right away. Well, I don't know. I'm actually really bad at catching spiders. They scare me because they move so unpredictably. I'd be too scared. I would make you do it. I would call you up wherever you are. You better get out there and catch the spider for me.
Yeah. Well, now Thor, Colossus, and Hercules are all working together to make anti-venom, I guess.
Are they friends?
Well, Hercules and Colossus are, but they're a bit jealous of Thor.
Oh. Wait, is that real?
No, I have no idea. I doubt
They're
it.
all in different cages, right?
Yeah, probably.
Oh. Good job, Thor. I hope you save many people's lives, and I hope you don't bite people as well. Right. Okay, should I move
Yeah.
on to my next story? So, my next story is new species were discovered in a Peruvian jungle, the Alto Mayo. Would you like to guess what they are?
Was it a kind of frog?
Uh, well, some amphibians were discovered. I don't remember if they discovered any frogs. Well, it didn't say anyway.
Oh, this is plural. Guess multiple different.
Many new species were discovered.
Okay. Probably some kind of butterfly.
That's right.
Bird.
I don't think they said anything about a bird. Would you like me to just tell you what
Yeah.
they discovered? Okay. Oh boy, this is very exciting. So, they discovered at least one climbing salamander, some butterflies.
A squirrel, I'm just going to guess.
You can't get. Stop looking at the answers. A squirrel. Please don't look anymore. Okay. No, close your eyes. A semi aquatic mouse. Can you believe that?
I guess I believe it.
It has webbed paws and it can swim.
Oh, wow.
It's very rare in the animal kingdom. And look away again. A swamp eel that can survive on land.
A lot of eels can actually survive on land.
Right.
Well, they can move around on land.
Yeah, they can move around for a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
Okay, close your eyes again. An armored catfish with a weird blob-like nose.
I just want to say this list is a lot more interesting than I thought it would be.
Thank you.
I thought it'd be a bunch of bugs that no one cares about.
Wait, actually, we should look at a picture of this armored catfish. And everyone else, you should look it up because it looks really weird. Like, it looks like the blobfish. They were saying it has a Squidward nose. It looks like this.
God, that is a big nose.
Yeah.
You should try and describe it in case for listeners.
It's a Squidward nose. It's big and blobby and squishy. Like, the rest of it looks sort of like a normal fish, I guess. And then it turns into, like, the head of an octopus or something on its nose.
Yeah.
Super weird looking. So, yeah, that's one thing. And so in total, there were 27 species discovered, including 4 mammals, 8 fish, 3 amphibians, and 10 butterflies.
Pretty cool.
Are you impressed?
Yeah. Seems to be the place to go if you want to discover something.
Well, yeah, the thing is, they didn't think they were going to find anything at all. They were just going for like a normal sort of environmental impact study because there's a lot of people there.
Well,
And there have been a lot of people there for a while, so they're like, oh, we won't find anything. Like, let's just see what kind of animals there are. But no, they found a lot of stuff. So it gives you hope. Like, if you are someone who really wants to discover an animal, don't give up. You can go to some jungle or like probably a desert or the Arctic. You know, there's hope that you can find something.
even in your back garden, you might find a new species of spider or butterfly or something.
I guess.
I think that's actually reasonably common.
Hmm. So just don't lose hope. Yeah, is that all the news for today?
I guess so.
Right, good. So now we're going to move on to our special. We're doing like a cryptid court combined with wild chat today, a special on our expedition for the dire wolves.
In 2015, a person was driving through an Irish forest at night, right on the border between County Laois and County Offaly, when they took a wrong turn and got lost. They pulled over and tried to figure out where they were when they saw something moving ahead in the car's headlights. Coming out of the forest from the left was a huge, white, wolf-like creature that stopped in the middle of the road and stared with bright blue eyes. The encounter lasted about 10 seconds, and when the animal went back into the forest, the person left in a hurry. Okay, so just a little bit of background information on dire wolves. This comes from a few different sources, mostly the Dire Wolf Project. They were a species of animal that went extinct allegedly about 12 to 13,000 years ago, so the end of the last ice age, I guess you could say. Their common name is still dire wolf, but a study in 2021 examining their mitochondrial DNA discovered that they actually diverged from the lineage of true wolves about 5.6 million years ago. So the grey wolves of today are more related to jackals, coyotes, and African wild dogs than dire wolves. But I guess people didn't realize that because the skeletons of the two look so similar, like a dire wolf and a grey wolf. They look like very similar. There are a few differences. Usually the dire wolf seems to have smaller feet, a larger skull, and generally heavier build. So in a lot of like fiction, like Game of Thrones and stuff, a dire wolf is just a giant wolf. But according to the Dire Wolf Project and a few other videos, like I was watching PBS Eons on a few other, their average was about 130 pounds or about 60 kilos, with some estimates of their upper limit going up to about 175 pounds or nearly 80 kilos, which compared to grey wolves isn't really that much bigger. There are some like grey wolves that seem to be recorded close to like even the upper limits, but I think the average is a little higher. So generally a little bigger, but not by a lot.
So I have a few questions about that. So are you saying that in Game of Thrones the dire wolves are not accurate?
Yes.
My second question is, in Twilight, are those big wolves that Bella can like ride on and, they're really, really big, like the size of like taller than a person, a human. Are those also not accurate?
As
Oh, what a disappointment. Thank you.
yeah, I mean they're I don't see a very big difference in size. I think it's just like a little heavier.
Right. So why are they called dire then? Because it's like dire if you see them?
I can't remember why, I'm sorry.
All right.
So, supposedly they went extinct thousands of years ago. However, as you heard from the intro, there have been some sightings, and for some reason they seem to be specifically in Ireland, in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So there was the one I mentioned from 2015 on the border of Laois and Offaly in the Republic, but also in Northern Ireland in County Fermanagh. There was a sighting in 2012, allegedly, of multiple hikers, local hikers, that said they saw these big wolves with big heads in some of the forests around Fermanagh.
Hmm. Yeah. So we decided to investigate this because we were in the area anyway, and we were like, let's go see if we can find a cryptid today and give our listeners something juicy. So we went out and we went for a little hike in the area. I believe they said they saw the wolves in a forest, so we went to a forest.
Yeah, and the forest we chose was sort of aptly named Big Dog Forest.
Yeah. So we went to Big Dog Forest looking for big dogs. And let me tell you, well, should we tell? First, we'll explain. So we went on a little hike and there was a lot of deforestation. Lots of trees had been cut down and then they were being replanted. They were quite small. Looked almost like they were being planted in order to be cut down. So not a great habitat.
Yeah, no, even when I was trying to decide which forest to go to because there's multiple forests in Fermanagh that are kind of connected, it seems like. Going on like Google Maps and Google Earth and flying over it, it was like these don't look like very thick forests. They seem pretty sparse. Like there's trees here and there, but a lot of it seems to be like marshland and just open fields and stuff.
Yeah, so to be clear, wolves can live in marshland and open fields, but we didn't see any deer, and there should have been a lot of deer that we would have seen because if they're eating them, then like there should be enough that we would see one. Also, we didn't really see a lot of hiding places for them to be.
Yeah. Sorry, just to be clear, there are known deer in the area, but we're just saying there wasn't like the fact that we didn't see any means that there's probably not a lot of deer. So probably not enough to sustain them, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So would you, if you would like, you can listen to our recordings from our time in the field. We did a few like in the field voice recordings, so we can play those now.
Yeah, and we got a few visuals to show you too.
So we're walking around in the forest, and there's a place where there's a bunch of new growth. I don't know enough about trees to know how old they are, but a lot of them seem very young. And considering the story seems to be from 2014 of the last reported sighting, it's possible that the habitat has really changed since the wolves were seen. So maybe they'd be gone now if they were here. So we got to the top of a ridge. We're not going to do the full loop because why not? Because there's not much point.
It's all the same terrain, sparse trees, mostly marshland.
Yeah, and there aren't too many places where wolves could hide. I mean, there's some thick forest to the left of us, so it's possible. But really, there's not much else we can see, unless we got very lucky, I suppose. But at the top of this ridge, we did find a little secret path going off to the right, so we're going to go on that now.
Yep.
See what we can see. Also, I've been eating gingerbread cookies, which I know drive certain dogs crazy, so I thought the smell of the ginger would bring the wolves here. So far, it has not worked.
This might be the last you'll be hear from us.
Right. And I don't know how you're going to get this recording, if that's true, but...
This is the rescue team are listening to it.
Yes, okay. And there does seem to be a lot of human interference with this habitat, as in logging. Looks like logging, and then replanting trees in a sort of monoculture, so I don't know about that.
Unless there's some conspiracy afoot.
Oh, yeah. There's also a building on top of a hill, which looks like a castle. Could be someone living in there. All right, and at the top of this little path, you get to an overlook. You can see the lake, and you can see up to the top of the hill where there's a sort of stone, like an exposed cliff. So you can imagine big direwolves here, but there aren't so many places for them to hide. However, considering we're the only people here, I mean, maybe not a lot of people come here. Any final thoughts?
Just that when we crested the hill again, we're looking at another hill in this forest that is completely empty of trees, basically.
Yeah, but remember that wolves don't just need trees. Like, they also like open space. But we haven't seen any deer either. And if...
There technically are deer in the area.
But if they're gonna be supporting, like, a bunch of dire wolves, I feel like there needs to be more deer.
Yeah. I mean,
Enough that we could have seen one.
Or a deer scat or something.
Yeah. All right. Those are our thoughts for now. So standing at the top of the hill where the wind is coming from pretty much all directions and it feels very spooky up here, I'm going to do a test howl and see if anyone responds.
Yeah.
It's not going to be very good.
Well, when we did howls to other non-dire wolves, they did respond howls usually.
Did we do the howls?
Well, a bunch of us,
Ah.
but humans were able to do it and get the wolves.
Okay. Well, here I go. Did that sound like a howl to you?
Yeah.
Okay. We hear nothing in response.
It's eerily quiet, actually.
It is really quiet. I mean, it's like we're in the middle of nowhere. Okay. Thanks for listening to that. So, yeah, that was our first expedition. Do you have any final thoughts about our expedition?
I mean, it was pretty cool. We went there. We were like the only people there, right?
Yeah, the only people in the whole park. It felt like a post-apocalyptic movie.
Yeah, and it was pretty quiet. It was misty. It was cold, but it felt like it was appropriate weather to find a strange creature.
Yeah, for real. Like a direwolf would come out on a cold, misty day. They wouldn't come out on a nice summer day when everyone's hiking.
Yeah, because it seemed like the appropriate time. Didn't really see any signs of any animals, really.
Yeah, so if we're gonna talk about cryptid court, like, what do we think? Do we think that the direwolves could be out there?
So I have a little theory about this.
All right.
So let's assume that all these sightings were true.
Okay.
The sightings, by the way, I'll just cite my sources, come from unexplaineduniverse.ae, so an Irish website. So let's just assume they're true for a second.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out, okay, so like 10,000 years ago or 12,000 years ago, it's not that long ago, do we have any, like, were dire wolves known to inhabit Ireland? And I don't know if they were, because when I looked up more about dire wolves, apparently there's maybe two species, and they're like, I have it written down here, sorry. The eastern dire wolf in eastern regions of North America, and the western counterpart on the western parts of North America.
So the direwolf wasn't in Europe at all?
I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if it was in Ireland at least, because most of them are found around the La Brea tar pits. That's where there's like, I think they have over 4,000.
But I thought that direwolves were from Europe because Game of Thrones, like, not that Game of Thrones is a scientific source, but they have direwolves, and I thought it was like a thing that was there in the past in Europe, and that was why Martin used direwolves in his book.
I only focused on Ireland. Let me see if there were any in Europe. So on Nature, it says Pleistocene America.
Well, it looks like wolves and their most recent ancestor with coyotes and dholes evolved in Europe or Eurasia anyway. That says there's no evidence for gene flow between direwolves and gray wolves or coyotes.
Again, the dire wolves split from grey wolves 5 million years ago.
The University of Oxford says the direwolf is not just a Game of Thrones fantasy, it's a fearsome, distinct, but extinct canine. It says they were real creatures and roamed the American landscape. They were ubiquitous in America. Whoa. So George R. R. Martin was lying to me?
Well, I mean, it's just his version is basically a fantasy creature.
Yeah, but I pictured like direwolves as the same sort of thing as one of those giant deer from Europe, or like I pictured them in the sort of Scandinavian, Northern European Ice Age landscape.
I mean, it could be that, they just haven't really been found yet, and that, like, La Brea is just a good place to find fossils.
There's some fossil that was found in northeastern China, and that is not America. A late Pleistocene fossil from northeastern China is the first record of the direwolf in Eurasia. This is a study in Elsevier. What was it? 2021? Fossils of direwolves are very rare. Yeah, and this is a report of the first one in Eurasia, near the city of Harbin. Well, well, well. Well, well, well. Well, I don't know if any other studies corroborate this.
Yeah, so from the current knowledge, the likelihood of them having been in Ireland doesn't seem particularly high.
Okay, but what if they became extinct in North America and they swam or rafted to Ireland, a new haven for them?
Maybe, but what I was going to say, again, if we were going to assume that these are true, is that the grey wolf used to exist in Ireland up till I think the 1700s, so a few hundred years ago. And considering there's not a massive size difference, really, I mean, I don't know if someone could like eyeball a weight difference between these two. Wouldn't it be more likely that if these cryptid wolves are around, that they were just some kind of regular wolves?
Listen, people don't want regular things, they want big things. People want to see big wolves, dire wolves, like, you know, that's more important than being scientifically accurate.
Well, then the other thing is, just thinking about like big gray wolves, it seems like the biggest ones are the ones in like maybe western Alaska where they can hunt like moose and have a lot of prey, and that's why they're bigger than like wolves in other parts of America. So I don't know how these extra large wolves would like Ireland doesn't seem to like the place for the biggest wolves to be.
Well, there are sheep, lots of sheep. They can eat the sheep and the cows.
No, that's the big cats are eating them.
Ah, well, they can share.
Yeah. Well, that's assuming if it's true. But then the other thing is these two sightings are so vague and strange. Like the one that I read at the beginning, it doesn't even say like anything about the person. Like I have no idea what age they were or who they were or why they're so anonymous and how they got the sighting out.
They're afraid. They don't want the wolf to find out they've been spreading rumors about him.
It's like in the show, we want to speak to the wolf. And then even in the one in Fermanagh, local hikers said that they saw this, but it didn't like make news or anything.
Hmm. Interesting.
So what do you think?
I don't think that there are dire wolves in Ireland, given all this information. It's probably just sensationalized sightings of a dog, and if there's anything out there, it's definitely going to be a gray wolf, not a dire wolf.
And then the other thing is, when you search like dire wolves in Ireland, they're like, oh, come and visit and pet these dire wolves because they're the wolves or whatever they were on Game of Thrones that you can go and see. And there's tours because Game of Thrones was shot in Northern Ireland, or some of it was, probably most of the dire wolf stuff. And I wonder if because dire wolves became popular in culture around that time, that all of a sudden,
Wait, can you actually go and pet the dire wolves that were used in the filming?
apparently,
What? So it says you can meet the wolves that were used in the filming. So are these the wolves or the dogs?
they look like dogs from the pictures. They look like kind of a husky or something.
Hmm, that's nice. But they're not dire wolves.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's been put back into the culture.
Interesting. Did we also, sorry, to change the subject, but did we ever record a podcast about going to Lake Champlain?
Did we?
I don't know. Remind us if you're listening to this. Did we ever talk about how we went on another expedition to Lake Champlain to look for the look for Champy? If not, we'll talk about it next time.
Oh yes, this is actually our second cryptid expedition.
Oops. Believe me, the Lake Champlain expedition was very exciting. You will not want to miss what we found there.
You won't believe what happens next. Okay, so we wrap up this cryptid court.
Yeah. So I guess the verdict is direwolf no. At least in Ireland. Could be out there somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We don't really have any emails to respond to today. But if you have any questions, suggestions, or theories, please email us at thewildworldpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep, that's the wildworldpodcast@gmail.com.
We'd especially like to hear from you if you're one of those people who were hiking and saw the dire wolf in Ireland. Please let us know. Or if you saw the white wolf while you were driving, please let us know that you are real and not just a monkey typing on a typewriter. All right, so as usual, please don't look at the screen. As usual, I have some comments that I'm going to test Thomas, see if he can guess which videos they're from, and just some silly comments I saw. So here's the first comment. The argument I see as the counterbalance to absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence is Hitchens' razor. What can be asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence. Though the burden of proof lies with the one who speaks, not the one who denies from the world of philosophy is also relevant. Thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I agree. I feel like absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence is kind of an annoying phrase at this point.
Mm-hmm. So which phrase of the three do you agree with most?
I guess Hitchens razor. It's a bit like didn't Sagan have a saying like extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if there's no evidence, you can assert it, but you might as well also dismiss it, basically. Because that's what it says. What can
If
be
I had to choose one, yeah.
yeah. Can you guess what video this is from?
Is it main channel or podcast?
Maine.
I have no idea.
Would you like me to tell you?
Sure.
So this was left on the video, How Big Do Saltwater Crocodiles Get?
Well, I never would have guessed that. I thought it was a cryptid video.
Right. Well, saltwater crocodiles are cryptid. I'm going to dismiss them without evidence. um, here's your next comment. It's so irritating, this attitude, when people act like a small sample size of measured values and a calculated average dictates reality rather than vice versa. As if anything outside mainstream accepted measured values cannot or do not exist. Reality doesn't stop at the boundary of your perceptual bubble. Exceptions happen regularly in every facet of nature.
See, in some ways this sounds fine, but when I find out what this was a response to, I feel like this is going to be a bit of a silly comment.
Would you like to guess?
Um, is it also a size video?
Yeah.
Um, anacondas? I don't know.
I'll tell you. It's on How Big Can Tiger Sharks Get?
Okay. But we don't really have a small sample size though. We have like thousands of measurements.
However, exceptions happen regularly in every facet of nature.
Yeah, and we have exceptionally large ones that are much bigger than the what they say calculated average.
What about the mainstream accepted measured values? There's stuff that exists beyond the boundary of your perceptual bubble.
Yeah, that's fine, but if you're going to say how big an animal gets, you probably need something to back it up. Like maybe it can get bigger than what we said in the video, but unless I have like evidence to show that, you can't really just go on what people told you because people have a tendency to overestimate and exaggerate.
Good response. All right, thank you. So, we've reached the end of our podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it's going to be shorter than usual, probably. I got some emails, some comments were left on our Ready and Shilling episode. They listened to it all the way through, and they left a comment about the maned wolf. This is Kintyre and Sarah SMR 4278. So well done. I forgot about that. Like, I think I said I was just gonna shout you out. So hopefully you're listening now and you can remind me. You probably already forgot to though. Anyway. If you've also listened to this episode all the way through, please mention the Malayan or the Malayan tapir, and we will shout you out next time as well.
Yep, thanks for listening.
Yep, bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.